Happy to be here. As Don said, I'm a Reiki practitioner and teacher, and I've been doing that for some time. I've also been using essential oils for a long time, though I'm in no way am I an expert with essential oils. And the more I study aromatherapy, the more I know that. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about integrating essential oils into a Reiki practice, whether that focus be on the client who's receiving the Reiki session, or if the focus is on supporting the Reiki practitioner and the Reiki teacher who also needs support. Since some of you may not be familiar, some of the people listening to this may not be familiar with Reiki, you may be here to learn more and to learn more about supporting Reiki practitioners in your life with oils. I'll go ahead and give you a description about, give you an idea of what Reiki is and what a Reiki session is like. And really the amazing way that essential oils and Reiki work together. Reiki is a beautiful, simple practice of stress reduction that was developed in the modern age in 1920s Japan. It spread around the world after World War II, and it's really been in the last 20 years, even more recently than that, that it's become as popular and as mainstream as it is now. We say, those of us who are Reiki practitioners know, when people come to study Reiki, we call it a gateway drug of metaphysics, right? Well, it's a way to get started. It's a safe way, a safe grounded way to move into other metaphysical disciplines and other alternative modalities. And it's the same way for a Reiki client who's coming in for a Reiki session. Now, some Reiki clients will come in because they're energetically sensitive, and they know that, and they know that Reiki's for them. But the wonderful thing I think is so precious about being a Reiki practitioner is that so many people walk through that door for a Reiki session really not knowing what to expect. And they're there because they've started to sense that there's something else going on. There's something more to them than the fragments, the pieces that are being looked at by doctors and therapists and pharmaceuticals. So they have a sense of that holistic sense of themselves. And Reiki is a safe place to start. So sometimes they're coming, sometimes Reiki is what they're looking for. Sometimes there are other things that are going to lead them on their journey. And so it's a wonderful thing to be part of that, nexus of where they're going to find their path to a more holistic way of being well and seeing themselves. And that's really where essential oils fit so perfectly into my work as a Reiki practitioner. That to be able to give someone tools such as, for me, it's usually essential oils, flower essences, and affirmations, so that they have something to take out of the office with them, to empower them. And that's part of what we are doing there energetically as practitioners. That's part of our integrity as a Reiki provider. So I'll tell you a story about why it's so important to me, why it resonates with me so much, about my son who long ago, many years ago, 20 years ago, when he's 6 years old, and he has so much anxiety starting school. It's really serious, very, very hard to watch as a parent. And we were immediately pushed to the idea of going to the multiplex pediatrician building and getting medication. And I was referred to, because I wanted to avoid just jumping into pharmaceuticals, he's so young, that we went to a doctor who had always worked as an MD, but she had sort of taken a different path and had become more interested in alternative modalities. And she gave us lots of assistance, but one thing she gave me when I left, above and beyond, was a sheet of paper that had, and I'm sure essential oils were probably on there, though I didn't explore them at the time, but she gave us herbs and supplements and light therapy. She gave me referrals to chiropractors for him, to acupuncturists. And that little sheet of paper meant so much to me. I'm going to tear up, you know. It was like a lifeline. That even though I didn't explore it all, it meant so much to know it was there. And I still have it. Whenever I move in these past years, I find it, and you know, I can't throw it away. It's in the back of a box somewhere. So that's the kind of thing we can do in our work as a Reiki practitioner. So I'm going to share with you tonight some ways to use the essential oils during a Reiki session, give those of you who aren't familiar with Reiki what that's like, and also ways to support the practitioner, ways to ground, ways to protect, ways to work with energetic boundaries, and ways to just keep our vibration up, which is something essential oils do magnificently for a practitioner. So those of you who haven't had a Reiki session, it usually goes, you can do Reiki so many different ways, but oftentimes what you're going to see most is an hour to an hour and a half session where the client is fully clothed on a massage table. And it's very, and the Reiki is administered with light touch, with the hands, light touch, or either lightly on the body or over the body. And it's a very meditative environment. It's very peaceful. It's very gentle. And the session has a life of its own. The client is usually very peaceful in their own place for the entire time after the session begins. So it's a little different even than a massage therapist who might have more interaction with the client. There might be more talking. And so you can see that how we would integrate essential oils is affected by that. Another thing to know about Reiki is that many people have a heightened sensitivity after the session starts. No matter how many years I do it, no matter how many times I adjust the music, the volume, or the bubbling brook on the white noise machine. I think I have it just perfect. It's nice and light. About 5-10 minutes into that session, it is just assaulting me. It seems so loud. And so that's something that happens with Reiki. So not just with sounds, but also with everything sensory. People become cold, people become sensitive. Not everyone, but it happens. So I often, diffusing is a wonderful way to use the oils in a Reiki room. I'll have the diffuser going when the client arrives, but maybe 15 minutes into the session, after I work on a few hand positions on the head, I will turn the diffuser off and maybe turn it on towards the end. Also know that a Reiki practitioner during the session sort of has a commitment to stay within the energetic presence of the client. So we don't have a lot of time to jump around, disconnect, play with bottles, and do a lot. So a lot of the sharing of the oil might take place towards the beginning of the session. Right? something I do, you know, can be just as simple for me as the diffuser, and just using oil on my hands. And as if you're a Reiki practitioner, you know, maybe the first contact is scanning the energy body, and then one of the first positions is usually over the eyes. So they are taking in the oil there, taking in the aroma. There are other ways to do it. One thing we do not do is manipulate tissue at all. So unless you're also a licensed body worker, you're not going to be applying the oils at all. One exception that I myself have done, and I don't know if it's because also being a yoga teacher and being in studios where there's a lot of Thai massage, that I have placed, you know, with permission, a drop of sandalwood, diluted sandalwood on the brow. But even that, you know, the client can do on their own. So we're not going to be applying anything to the body, generally. There's no manipulation. However, even though clients often come not for all sorts of physical symptoms, if you provide Reiki, you have probably noticed that as the session gets started, so they often have this, pull out this laundry list in their mind of like, oh, and by the way, I sprained my ankle 2 months ago, and oh, I have a knee here, and I have a shoulder here. So there are lots of more superficial physical injuries that come to their mind, even if that's not the reason that they come. And so that's a wonderful time for a client to use something, obviously, like deep blue, right? So if you're going to have just a few things in the office as a Reiki practitioner, deep blue is a wonderful thing because you can give them an option to use deep blue on that injury. Now outside of that, outside of the beginning, whatever I put on my hands, another option in the beginning is a warm towel with, you know, lavender, whatever you like. I know a Reiki practitioner who, after she uses the oil on her hands, she'll sort of just pat a towel, a hand towel, and place it under the head of the client. So they're receiving the aroma that way. So that's a simple way to do it. We can go further with, especially if you're a Karuna practitioner and you're using different symbols throughout, and using, you know, your option there might be either yourself sort of swafting the hands over the face, or even if they're a regular client, offering them a cotton ball, right? But I think that's a little more specialized. Usually outside of a session like that, when someone comes for a Reiki session, it begins and they are on an inner journey and usually are not disturbed. What I do is I keep in mind, I just have a few go-tos ready with samples of those available. So, you know, you'll have people, the typical things that human beings are. Some people come in and can tell they're a little nervous, they're a little distracted, they're moving a little fast, right? So they need relaxation, they need something to bring them down a notch, to get back in their body. So the meditation oils like sandalwood or frankincense or vetiver, in tune blend, things like this, those are good things to have on hand and have samples. The other way that human beings often present themselves, we present ourselves in the world, might be more in a depressed state. I mean, you can tell if someone is tighter and withdrawn. And in that case, you might choose something that's more uplifting, something more citrus, something like Melissa, Motivate, Elevation, that kind of, those are my go-tos. But again, we're never diagnosing or prescribing. That's beyond the scope of our practice. But it's just a general nod to what we're taking in from the person and what you feel like that day. Always remembering that essential oils just in themselves are going to raise vibration, are going to, just by the nature of what they are going to ground the spirit and body, right? They're great connectors, just in and of themselves, no matter what you use. So it's always a wonderful thing. I apologize for my phone. So a wonderful thing about giving them a sample, if they're interested, isn't just for their empowerment, for an extra tool, an extra link when they leave, but also the way the aroma works with the limbic system of the brain. And a lot of massage therapists, and some of you maybe who are watching this will be possibly massage therapists or other body workers. So you may already have this in your practice or be aware of that when they experience the aroma in a session and then they take that with them, they can re-experience some of what they felt in the session. And especially in Reiki, since a lot of what we're working on is in the subtle areas where we're working on the mental and emotional bodies. That's a wonderful plus. So those are ways to share, ways to sample. As far, we could talk all day, have a huge workshop about the ethics and the scope of our practice. But to kind of bring out, to give an example of the difference between prescribing and sharing, right? Even with Reiki, we do not diagnose and we do not prescribe. And it's the same thing with the oils, right? In our scope of practice, we're when we look at our practice, we're aware of what our skill level is, what we're certified to do, right? And in the case of Reiki never is diagnostic. So let's say somebody comes in and they tell me they're so depressed, it's horrible, it's awful, they're depressed. I choose motivate, that's good. I feel like motivate today too. I work on them. Oh my gosh, there's like a big jar of pea soup over their heart chakra. And at the end of the session, I'm not going to say, oh my goodness, your heart chakra is in terrible shape. We need you to come every week for 90 minutes for a month. And then I'm pretty sure we'll clear a lot of that away and a lot of your depression will be gone. And on top of that, I'm going to give you motivate and use this many times a day. And here's a vetiver inhaler, which is going to treat your anxiety. That is way beyond what we do as Reiki practitioners, right? As far as the energy goes, I'm going to tell them what I feel. Oh, I feel a lot going on in your heart area. I worked on that a while. And we leave it up to that client to leave and see how they feel and connect those dots themselves. If they felt relief, oh, she said she was working on the heart. Maybe it's the Reiki. Maybe I'll go back. And it's the same thing with how we present an essential oil. At the end, they might say, oh, I like that. What is that? Oh, it's called Motivate. It's really great. Here's a sample. Please take one, right? I can share. I can educate about what is in it? Oh, it has Melissa. I love Melissa. It always is uplifting to me when I use Melissa. I can say that. But I'm not going to prescribe anything. And so that's an important distinction, because it's easy when you get into the oils that you find yourself talking to all your friends and all your neighbors, and you know, that's a little different than when you're working in a professional environment, right? So as far as what we can do for ourselves, and what you can do for the Reiki practitioner and teacher in your life. So many people who come to Reiki, they're already energetically sensitive and empaths. If they're not, they often become more so as they practice, as we open more energetically. So boundaries and grounding are always important in what we're doing. Lots of oils can help us with that. You know, all the meditation oils help with grounding, with the quiet state, with the return to our inner center where we want to be, or where we don't have to be there, but it's a nice place to be when we do Reiki, right? Yarrow is something also, Yarrow flower essence I've used and been aware of for years, and now Yarrow is available as an essential oil that works with boundaries, energetic boundaries. And so that's really wonderful. And I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, Yarrow is a really special tool energetically. So to be able to provide that for a Reiki practitioner is huge. And then, you know, the grounding, there are all sorts of things. All the meditation oils, balance blend, patchouli, vetiver, sandalwood, and vibration itself, anything raises the vibration. But particularly rose is such a high vibrator. The yoga blends that we already have, I think it's Align has rose. It's already diluted. That's a great thing for a Reiki practitioner. Melissa is high. All of them are fantastic. Those particularly, though, are going to raise, are going to put you in a different place energetically, which is what the Reiki is doing too. So we're just helping it along, right? So I have a PDF to be made available to you. I'll show it to you here. In the PDF, I adapted from a larger work for introducing aromatherapy to yoga practice. So it's kind of, I say that because you'll see the yoga influence. And you're welcome. It's going to be made available to you. You're welcome to use it, share it. If it's of help to you in your practice or to the Reiki practitioners that you're supporting. It's really made for someone who hasn't worked with the oils before, just to give them a general overview of what the oils can do, how to use them in a session, what some of the contraindications are, a little bit about blending and diluting. The notes and that, in the case of Reiki, we're not using so many oils that we're probably, that we need to worry about this, but you know, generally, if you're going to introduce in an hour time several oils to someone, you may not want to overdo citrus or overdo the wood oils. You'd like to have a nice blend. So looking at the notes and balancing that can be helpful. something that might be very helpful for Reiki practitioners is looking at the essential oils for chakras. And you know, this is really, chakras we could talk about for a month, and there are so many. There's not just one or two for each chakra. You're going to, it's such a dynamic system that so many oils can work. Here are some recipes, also coming from the yoga background a little bit, for doshas from Ayurveda. They're just fun. Even if you don't want, even if you're not looking at doshas, they're nice recipes to help people get started with it. At the end, there are some descriptions of the oils, and that was really put in for yoga teachers, but it's also helpful for Reiki practitioners who are just getting started with oils and want to have something handy to describe the oil, to give the person an idea of how the oil works. And it sort of, it focuses on the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of the oils. I'm going to show you the resources. And I highlighted a few of the books. And this will be for you. I'm going to show you the books that I use. Many of them you've seen before, like Emotions and Essential Oils, which really addresses the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects. Chakra Wellness, right? It's a great book. And of course, like I say, the chakra system is so dynamic, it's so complex. But it's a good place to start. It's just a fun place to start. It doesn't have to be in any diagnostic way. And the thing about this book is it includes affirmations. And affirmations work so well with what we do in Reiki and how we're working with the energy body. Affirmations communicate with that intuitive part of ourself, the way our Reiki symbols communicate with the intuitive part of ourself. So if people are open to affirmations, introducing affirmations and introducing them along with something like an essential oil or flower essence, it's really powerful because they're using their word, their volition to affect change in their energy body. And so this is excellent. They have really wonderful different affirmations you can choose. And there's no worry, like I say, it's not diagnostic, it's not prescribing. You don't have to worry about getting exactly the right affirmation for someone. It's an introduction to what people can do for themselves, besides Reiki. And a book that you may not, the other two are out there a lot. But this one, Living Healthy and Happily Ever After, it's really fantastic. And it has so many blends and so many affirmations. So it's an excellent go-to for affirmations. To go further with it, you're probably aware of Louise Hay in Heal Your Life, and it'd be very easy to use that with essential oils too.